What's up, people? Welcome to another exciting edition of the Black and Gold Hour podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints news. And today we have a very special guest. If you've watched the last few weeks, I have had the amazing opportunity to create content with those who know Saints football. I'm blessed and I'm honored, and I'm just soaking up all the knowledge from all the individuals I hear. So we're going to keep the ball rolling. And today, my next guest, you may have heard him on Wwl Sportstalk with Bobby Hebert. You may have even heard his show, The Point After, where he reviews what happens after all the Saints football games. Here with me today, I have Kristian Garic. How are you today, man?
What's going on? Glad to be a part of the show. How are you guys?
Thank you so much for that. And I want to just jump in and talk Saints football. The regular season is approaching. So I wanted to start by asking, where did your love from the Saints come from, and how did it lead to you working with WWL?
Well, I was born in New Orleans. I wasn't raised here in New Orleans. My father was in the military. So we traveled all around the country and around the world, wherever he was stationed. But we always would find a way to watch Saints football. My parents are New Orleanians, so there was no other option for me, and they raised me right, so to speak. So as soon as I could understand the game of football, I think I was probably, by this point, about 9 years old when I could truly get into it and understand. This is going back to the days that I now host a radio show with, and Bobby Hebert was the quarterback in 1987, their first winning season. And it kind of just grew from there. And we always, then of course the Sunday ticket happened, right, where you could buy the Sunday ticket, or what we would do, my dad was stationed in New York, and we would go to a sports bar. It was called the Sports View, and it was a bar, so I wasn't technically allowed to be in there because I was not of age. And my dad kind of worked a deal with the owner, like, hey, we'll come every Sunday, just let us, let them come in, etc. It was kind of like, like Rain Man when he couldn't watch Wapner, and he almost had that episode on that lady's porch. That was kind of how I was. I say that jokingly, and about Saints football. And then, through time, we would come home for a couple of Saints games a year. We would travel back and go to the Saints game. Ironically, I was supposed to come back one year, my junior year of high school. We were going to open, I think, against Tampa Bay. And 2 days before the trip, I came down with appendicitis. So we couldn't make the trip. Nonetheless, I've always kind of followed them. I've always been a fan. And throughout my military days, I was in Okinawa when they were one year, and I'd wake up at 2:00 in the morning, I think it was, to ultimately watch on the military network. And it's just been ingrained in me personally and in my family. My kids are Saints fans. They have no other choice. There's no other team to root for. So, that's the long and short of it.
Right. And my dad is born and raised in New Orleans, and he ingrained it in me. And he said either you're watching football or either you're a Saints fan or you're not watching football at all. There was no other choice. So, I'm growing up in Virginia. My dad ended up getting in the Navy and going to Virginia.
Salute to your father. Salute to your father.
Thank you so much for that. And he's going to be watching that, so he'll really appreciate that. And so being a Saints fan, we have to go through the highs and lows. But before we kind of get into that, you're working right near the Saints action. You're where we want to be as fans. So I want to ask you, what's your favorite part of working with WWL?
Well, there's so many, just because of, you're right, the access that we get to the Saints and to the players we get to talk to and the coaches. And my favorite part is just knowing that, we're connected through the fan base to the team, and they rely on and depend upon us to bring them information about their favorite team. And there's so many other outlets that do a great job. But because we're Saints radio, what we say and what we do matters a lot. My favorite part, it's a hard question to answer definitively. If you ask me a favorite moment, I could spout out 2 or 3 of them. But it's just the idea that I get paid to talk about football. I mean, most humans on this planet would kill to have my job, and it's a really big blessing to be able to do that, and it's a lot of fun. It makes for a lot of long days sometimes during the football season, but at the same time, I'm not sweating, I'm not breaking my back, I'm not out in the elements. I'm sitting down in a chair in front of a microphone talking about football. I mean, you can't get any better than that.
Right. And you're doing it for the best fan base. I don't know. I mean, you work with WWL, you've been around Saints fans, and I've just started this creating content surrounding the Saints and the fans. It's like no other. You go to a game, they're dancing, they don't care where I'm from. As long as I'm repping the Saints, they are, give me their full support, and I love it. And that's why I'm a fan, because it just feels like a big family when you go to the games. And, that's what I, remember most and think about most when I think about the New Orleans Saints. But let's kind of jump into the regular season and get ready for that. In a recent article, you talked about the training camp battles that will be present for the New Orleans Saints. And I want to talk about the big training camp battle that everyone is talking about between Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. First, I want to ask you your opinion. What was your reaction last year when you saw that Taysom Hill got the start over Jameis Winston? And do you think there's an actual battle coming into the regular season, or is it Jameis to lose?
No, I think it's a quarterback battle, but it made sense last year when Drew went down because Taysom had been with the offense, had been with the team longer. Jameis was, a newborn, if you will, into the Saints offense. And it just made sense because Taysom Hill had been around for a while. And I think Coach Payton is really intrigued by the running ability of Taysom Hill. And, you saw the offense change a little bit when he was in there. I think what's intriguing about Jameis Winston is his big arm. I mean, I know people can crack on him for the 30 for 30, 30 interceptions. I even joke that he, ESPN has 30 for 30. And I was calling Jameis Winston 30 for 30. But listen, I think Jameis Winston, you don't get picked number 1 overall if you stink. Okay?
Right.
It just doesn't happen. I think if you look closely at Jameis Winston, what he had to deal with in Tampa Bay, I mean, he went through 3 different offensive systems, 3 different coordinators, was told by the latest coach, Bruce Arians, hey, no risk it, no biscuit. And I think he'll be a completely different player in this offense. And because he's got a really good offensive line and he's got some weapons. He's got Alvin Kamara, he's got Mike Thomas. He's got, like I said, a great offensive line. And I think, he was brought to Tampa to be the guy to turn everything around. Like he was the answer. And that's never a good thought. That's never a good approach for an organization to, put it on one guy. Because even with Drew, as good as Drew Brees was, it wasn't just him that was contributing, that was doing well. That was the reason why they were winning games and winning a Super Bowl. So I think Jameis ends up winning this job. I do. I think Sean Payton's intrigued by how big his arm is, and Sean loves the vertical game, and Jameis Winston gives you that opportunity. Not that Taysom Hill doesn't; he does too. But I think Jameis Winston's a little bit better of a down the field thrower than Taysom. My knock on Taysom Hill is he holds the ball. I mean, look how many fumbles he had last year, and he holds the ball. He doesn't throw with great anticipation, and I think the most successful quarterbacks, you look at all of them, Patrick Mahomes can kind of get away with it because he's got a lightning bolt for a right arm. But most quarterbacks, great ones, they throw people open. They throw with anticipation. And I'm talking about guys like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. Those guys, they kind of throw people open. And when they put a ball in a certain spot where only his guy can get it. So I think Jameis Winston ends up winning this battle, but that's not a bad thing because you're still going to have Taysom Hill a part of this offense. You could see it. It's going to be a combo deal anyway. There's going to be packages for Taysom Hill. You're not going to, just because if he loses the job, that doesn't mean, he's going to be holding a clipboard. No, I mean, he's going to be in the offense. we've seen his versatility as a tight end, running back, quarterback, receiver. I mean, that's a football player. So I'm sure Taysom Hill, wants to solidify himself as a quarterback, but he's still going to play his role, whether it's a starter or as a guy that comes in with some niche role.
Right. And I'm gonna be honest. I was one of those fans last season. I didn't know what to expect, but I was excited when they called Taysom's name because he was the unknown. It was something about him. Why we didn't have any film on him. We only had good plays. So we saw a couple of games, and what we saw was he's definitely able to wreak havoc on the Falcons, but he wasn't able to keep that consistency in a couple of other games. So going to Jameis, he was in the Bruce Arians offense, like you were saying, when they were just throwing the ball all over the place. And we even saw Tom Brady throw some interceptions that he might not have thrown earlier in his career, just being a part of Bruce Arians' offense and being a high-flying offense. So I do believe, like you said, that Jameis can handle it. He has Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray in the backfield, and then he has Michael Thomas in the wide receivers. So let's kind of talk about the wide receiver group. Now, this group can be inconsistent at times. Michael Thomas went out with injury last season, but I want to ask you, in your opinion, how do you feel about the Saints wide receiver group? Do you think they should have made wide receiver more of a priority going into this regular season?
I was a little surprised that they didn't draft one. Excuse me. But I would disagree with you to a degree on the consistency of this wide receiver group, because Mike Thomas got a good share of the catches and receptions the year before because he was the dude. I mean, it was just how do you not want to throw the ball to Michael Thomas? I thought Emmanuel Sanders played well when Thomas went down, and Traquan Smith, when he's healthy, I think is a threat. I think he's a good player. His problem is he's not healthy very often. He gets injured a lot, and that's not his problem or his fault. It's just the way the game is. But I think that Traquan Smith, I think they're counting on some of his maturity, his growth, him staying healthy, and I think there's a dozen ways to add up to a receiver. I mean, Alvin Kamara is listed as the running back. He doesn't just get the ball, from the quarterback and run through the line, etc. I mean, they use him so many ways in the passing game. I think if there's an area where you're going to look at and perhaps be a little concerned about, would be tight end. And look, this is the first time the Saints haven't had a true veteran, Jimmy Graham, Jeremy Shockey, Ben Watson, Jared Cook, that has been featured on other teams or with their own team as the main, passing attack weapon at tight end. It's Adam Troutman, but he's not a grizzly veteran. He's entering his second season in the NFL. And I know they're very high on him. They like him a lot. And he's done some things even as a rookie. But, they got Nick Van Nett and others, Garrett Griffin. But, that's a position that's unknown. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm saying it's unknown. We don't have the answer. We don't know what the Saints are going to get, what kind of production they're going to get out of the tight end position. So I'm actually more comfortable with the receivers than I am the tight end at this point.
All right. So for the wide receiver group, let me ask you this. A lot of fans, like Marquez Callaway, but a lot of fans, especially towards the later part of the season, fell in love with Deontay Harris and what he can bring to an offense. Do you see his role expanding going into this upcoming season?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that I've said it on my show. I think Deontay Harris could potentially turn into a player that you could have a package of plays for, especially down the field, reverses, the speed sweeps. I think his name escapes me right now. Who's the cat for the Chiefs?
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill. Yeah, thank you. I think he could be a poor man's version of Tyreek Hill, if that makes any sense. I'm not saying he's going to be Tyreek. Don't misconstrue my words. But I think he can be a scaled back version in this offense.
Right. And we're excited to see him. We saw what he did against the Bucs in the divisional round, and if he would have stayed healthy, the season could have ended a lot differently. So Let's switch to the other side of the ball, the defense. And you wrote in your article about the training camp battles, and we talked about the linebacker position, and we know what Demario Davis brings to the New Orleans Saints. But I want to ask you, the running theme of this offseason has been Quan Alexander being brought back potentially to the Saints. I want to ask you, how do you feel about the Saints bringing Quan Alexander back, and do you think that's something that's going to come in the near future?
What's he want to play for? I mean, how much money is he going to ask for? If the price is right, then yeah. I mean, I think he's your best option if he's fully recovered from his Achilles tendon issue and injury. I think he and Demario Davis had something going on last year. I mean, I think they had some mojo working, and it was unfortunate to see him go down. Pete Warner, Zach Bond. I mean, you don't know what you got out of those guys yet. I think Pete Warner had a really good college career, but let's keep in mind, if the Saints have been knocked for one thing, I would be critical of their ability to draft a linebacker. I mean, go back to Stephon Anthony. That didn't work out. Alex Anzalone didn't work out. Jonathan Vilma was a free agent, or they traded for him. Demario Davis was a free agent. So, they haven't drafted well at that position, so to speak. But I think if Quan is healthy and the price is right, I think that's your best option.
Right. And sticking with the defense, over the last 2 days, we've heard about David Onyemata being suspended for 6 games. I want to ask you, the defensive line, honestly, for me, became my favorite position group to watch over the last 2 years. So I want to ask you, in regards to the David Onyemata suspension for 6 games, is that something that Saints fans should be really concerned about, or do you think we have enough depth in the defensive line?
You should be concerned, okay? Clearly. I mean, you don't have Sheldon Rankins. You don't have you don't have David Onyemata anymore. You don't have Malcolm Brown anymore. Yeah, it's alarming. I mean, you got Shy Tuttle, obviously, but right now the depth on this defensive line, in particular in the interior defensive line, is similar to that of I think it was 2014 or 15 that 4 undrafted defensive linemen, just undrafted defensive linemen alone, 4 of them made the final roster. I think you're going to see something similar to that. Malcolm Roach was one of those guys last year, but I think you're going to see potentially 2 or 3 defensive linemen make this roster because of the lack of depth and the suspension of David Onyemata.
Right. And I can't wait to see what the New Orleans Saints do this offseason as training camp comes at the end of the month. I can't wait to see the different, position battles that you were talking about and how they shape up as we go into the regular season. But for today's episode, I want to ask you a question that I've asked, my different guests that have come on the show. And I want to ask you, Drew Brees announced his retirement, and he has so many great memories. We obviously think about the Super Bowl, but I want to ask you, what's one of your favorite Drew Brees moments?
On the field or interacting with him?
Either one.
Well, I was on the field. It's obvious. There's so many of them. Winning the Super Bowl in Miami when he had the quarterback sneak and he dunked the ball over the goalpost, and becoming the all-time leading passer. I mean, they're countless. My favorite, I guess, interaction with him. I used to interview him after every game, and he was always personable and very, very easy to work with. And but my favorite interaction was training camp. I think this was 2018 or 19. The quarterback competition. You know how they do that after practice.
Right.
Well, I was a part of that in the Duncan booth. I was in a Duncan booth, and I got to razz him a little bit just because that's what you do when you're in the Duncan booth, and I was making fun of his height and the fact that he's balding a little bit with some Rogaine, and he took it all in stride, and he dunked me like 4 times. It was precision upon precision. I mean, that target was probably like this big, and there he goes drilling it. And it was just in good fun, and he had a good time with it. And I remember Tom Savage being the backup that year. And it's fun to see guys that are normally very serious have a good old guttural, from the gut laugh.
Right.
So Tom Savage it was his turn to go up, and my line was, "Hey, I loved you in the Wonder Years," from Fred Savage, and Drew heard it and almost fell on the ground laughing so hard. And so it was just kind of neat to experience that. Just, here he is, Drew Brees. You think of intensity. Whenever you think about Drew Brees, you think about how intense he is and how much of a competitor he is. And to see him have that kind of laugh and entertainment out of it was pretty cool. And, the other thing is, one year, I think this was the year they started the Who Dat chant, I had my oldest son in the car with me, and we got the notification about the press conference, and I didn't have time to run my son back home. So, I brought him to the press conference, and Drew and them made the announcement about starting the Who Dat chant. And unsolicited, I didn't ask Drew to do this. He did it on his own. He finishes the press conference and he walks off the podium and goes immediately to my son and introduces himself. And, my son was, probably 13 at the time, maybe. He's 21 now. So, no, it was longer than that. He was probably about 10 at the time. He was 10. And, he introduces himself to my son and talks to him and just spends a couple of minutes with him. And to the point to where my son, literally didn't speak. Like, he was so mesmerized and so starstruck. But yeah, that was a moment that, you look at it and go, man, he didn't have to do that, right? I mean, he could have just walked off the podium and carried on about his day, and I would not have been upset whatsoever had he done so. But it was just neat to see that moment, and I know my son still talks about it to this day. So that was a neat moment, a neat memory I could provide for my son. And I'll share another one that I thought was pretty neat too, and it's not necessarily Drew Brees, but this training camp, this is the year before, this was 2019. Mm-hmm. And I had to, actually, he's here right now, but I had to cut a commercial with Cam Jordan, and I had my middle son with me, and his name's Hayden, and he was 12. So I bring him camp. I cut the commercial. We're right next to Cam, and we're cutting the commercial, and my 12-year-old at the time is pulling on my sleeve. Hey, I want to hurry up because I want to be where Drew Brees comes off the field to go high five him, And I was like, all right, son, but we got to get stuff done first. We got, I got to get this done. Dad's got to work first. So anyway, so after practice concludes, and Cam Jordan being the super guy that he is, that's another great man. He starts walking onto the field. Drew and Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill are doing their post-practice throwing session. And Cam turns around to my son and says, "Are you coming or not?" and my son looked at me, and I was like, "If Cam says you can go, go." So he got to spend about, 20 minutes or so over there with Teddy and Taysom and Drew and hanging out with them. And I was like, and I said, I was like, when you go back to school, if anybody the teachers asked you to recap your summer, I said, that story better be the first one on the list.
Exactly.
I said, because there's not too many kids that are going to get to say that, hey, I was at Saints training camp and I was hanging out with the quarterbacks for, 20 minutes at a time, including Drew Brees, Taysom Hill, and Teddy Bridgewater. So that's just a neat one. And look, man, I'm grateful to have the job that I have and being able to, do some unique things with my kids that not a lot of people maybe get an opportunity to do, and create memories that way. And it was a neat experience, and I'm blessed to be able to do it. And I hope, people aren't mad at me because I was able to get my son some memories that otherwise most kids probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to get. But I mean, it's just part of the gig, I guess.
Right. And it's a great opportunity. I mean, as a kid, that's the highlight of, I'm 26. I'm a grown man. That's the highlight of my day, like of my summer, if I go back to work and tell somebody what I did. So I can imagine that's a memory that he'll have forever. And going back to...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I forgot to tell this part of the story. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I got home. I got three kids. I got three boys. My youngest son found out what we did. And as cool as I was to my middle son, Hayden, I was the dad of the year. My youngest son was so angry at me because I didn't get to take him. And then, I said, hey, I'll take you next year. And then the pandemic happened, right? So I didn't get to go. So Hopefully I'll try to get him out there this year, and we'll see. I just think that, you know, we get so bogged down with work, right? As professionals, as Americans, and we don't do a good enough job of blending our work with sharing moments with our kids. And I work a lot, so I try to blend that. And I mean, because you know, your time with them is precious. You know, I got a 21-year-old that, you know, I remember, you know, as a 2-year-old, just, you know, just like yesterday. And so that's all I try to do. I just try to, you know, spend time with them, show them the work side of me. You know, they're very curious by what I do, and I just try to take opportunities to share those moments with them.
Right, and they're gonna remember these moments. I'm 26, and in my adulthood, and my fondest memories with my father specifically are going to see those Saints games, going to the training camps, and just those little moments, sitting out there in the sun, baking. Those are the moments that you remember most with your father, and walking, you know, talking to tailgaters. Those are the things that you remember most. So continue to do that. And I really appreciate you for coming on the show. I'm sure your kids appreciate you for bringing them around all the action. And, you know, I wish you the best as you continue to work with WWL and bring us content on the point after. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome. Look, I'm excited to hear this. I don't know. Let me know, text me or tweet me the details on when this is going to air. I wish you continued success with your show, and a special salute to your father. Thank you for your service. I was a Marine. He's in the Navy. We're shipmates, and I got a lot of love and respect for those that have served this country.
All right. Thank you so much for your service as well. Thank you guys for watching another great episode of the Black and Gold Hour podcast. It will be available on YouTube, Spotify, and it'll be coming out this about 24 hours. So thank you so much, Kristian, and thank you guys, and be blessed.
Who dat?